Awesome. Hey, Carl, thanks so much for taking time to speak with me this afternoon. Very generous of you to share your time and your thoughts with us today. I was reading your bio and I might just kind of run through the highlights if you don't mind. So, you're CEO of the Medford real estate team here in the East Bay. You currently rank among the top realtors in the San Francisco Bay Area. You've been awarded a number of titles by folks like Trulia.com, which has given you the Mayor for Excellence in Online Content. You're a prolific writer. You've written for Home Gain and Trulia, and then, of course, the two local magazines, or I should say newspapers, that circulate here in San Leandro and Castro Valley. You've been quoted in numerous publications, the Washington Post, the Chicago Tribune, the LA Times, SF Gate, the list goes on. You're a certified residential real estate specialist and have been quoted in that magazine, interviewed by KPX5. The list goes on. You were nominated as Bay East Association Realtors 2001 Rookie of the Year, and then you went on to win the Realtor of the Year in 2019, both very prestigious acknowledgments by your community, and you continue to rank among the highest producing and most awarded and recognized by Bay East. You are married to the lovely Cheryl Medford, who I have not had the pleasure of meeting, but 42 years together is pretty impressive, Carl.
Thank you. It's actually 44 now.
Okay. Gotta get the bio updated. That's great. And 6 kids and 12 grandchildren. That is a heck of an accomplishment.
Yeah, and now it's actually 13 and a half grandkids, and believe it or not, 1 great grandkid.
Wow, so that's amazing.
Didn't see that coming. That was amazing. A total surprise. Yeah. So.
Well, and I could go on with the last little bit of it, and that is you're a gourmet chef. You love to travel, read, and build furniture, and you appreciate historical documentaries. We have that in common as well. I'm a documentary junkie also.
Excellent.
And I'm a writer as well, although I will tell you that the commitment that you make to writing on a weekly basis for the 2 local newspaper circulars is impressive, because you've got to come up with content every single week for those things.
That's the hard part right there. Writing the article is not difficult. Getting meaningful content week in, week out, that's the toughie.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, what prompted the contact was you had written something for Inman called 10 Tried and True Closing Techniques and How to Seal the Deal in 2023. And
right.
We've exchanged a couple of emails just preparing for this. I've talked to you. We've talked a little bit about your bio. How many people do you have on your team again?
There's 12 of us at this point. We're in full-blown hiring mode at this point. We want to double the size of our team this year.
That's great. That's wonderful. So the 12 that you have, what are the various roles that they play? And I'm asking that on purpose because you've broken it out for me. I just want to hear from you. Like, how does a guy that runs the kind of volume you do break out your team?
We've got one agent on our team that's the primary listing specialist, and then the rest of the team members would basically be hybrid, primarily buyers, but I mean, everyone on the team is allowed to do a listing as long as they are the ones that actually secure that listing. My job really is to provide the framework for the team to function with, provide the rails for the train to run on, so to speak. And then we've got a director of operations, Michelle Daniel, who literally runs the back end and the inside of the business. And then we've got listing manager, and then 2 VAs in the Philippines, actually, that work with us as well, virtual assistants.
So talk to me a little bit about the virtual assistant stuff, because I know that's something that comes up in conversation with some of the folks that I deal with, both on the lender side of the business and then in the real estate business. How is that working for you, and what's been kind of the biggest aha for you with that relationship?
Well, first of all, it took time to find a pair that really were a mesh, and they've got to be a cultural fit along with the rest of my team. Culture for us is critical. So, but I'll just give you an example of something that happened a week and a half ago that'll give you a little window into how valuable these guys really are. We had a listing in North Fremont that we thought we priced it fairly, but didn't anticipate that that was the weekend when the market decided to go bananas, and we got 54 offers on that listing.
Well, okay, hold on, time out, because that's a huge thing right now. So
Yes.
54 offers, and the timing associated with this particular listing was what?
About 2 weeks ago.
So that's incredible. And so talk to me a little bit about, like, how does that happen? I think you've got there's an aha there. How do you go from the slow environment that we've been in for several weeks, if not months now, to now doing 54 offers on a particular property?
Well, hold on to that thought for a second. Let me finish up with how the VAs helped with that.
Got it.
And this, I think, is the critical thing to help people understand how valuable a virtual assistant can be.
Great.
So as those offers were coming in, we have a dedicated email for offers. So the offers are coming into that email, most of them, from the agents that read the instructions. Let's put it that way. and they not all, you know how that works.
Yes, sir.
So as they were coming in, the virtual assistants together were opening up every single offer, going through, making sure that all of the pieces and everything that we had asked for were there. And then we're decoding the offers and putting the terms, the important terms, on a multiple offer spreadsheet that we developed. Meantime, this spreadsheet was being shared with the seller, with myself, and with our lead listing agent. So we could see in real time these offers being inputted on that sheet. In the meantime, the listing agent, realizing it was a stressful day for the clients, showed up at their house with a Costco chicken and some food and other things, and just took care of their basic needs, while behind the scenes, all the offers were being processed seamlessly, and we could monitor what was going on in real time. So, I mean, I've had other agents say to me, how the heck do you handle 54 offers? Well, it was a piece of cake, to be honest with you. Not that we want that every weekend, but we've got the bandwidth to do that because those VAs are in place. So that, that's just invaluable, right there.
Yeah, it is. And I like what I'm in my brain, I'm thinking, okay, that's fabulous. You said importantly, there have to be a cultural fit, but then they also have to understand your system.
That's correct.
And so how long of a training or how long of a spin up cycle does it take to get those two to where they're really productive for you?
Both of these have been with us for over 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah, and we went through a few others as well, and we went through a few different organizations to find a good fit. But it's like any employee. Once you find someone that really
works,
fits and
does what you need,
is available when you need them. I mean, it's been really, really good. So back to your question now on why 54 offers, why that weekend. As we were heading into the fall months, heading towards Christmas, I had made a prediction that buyers were going to come to a point, and probably early in the new year, where they were going to wake up and realize that, okay, we're not going to have another foreclosure crisis, and we're not going to have another pandemic. And so those conditions that were holding the rates artificially low, those are gone. And so if we go back and look at the 30-year average, we're looking at about 6.8% on average over the last 30 years. So, I mean, currently we're still under the average over the last 30 years. And we're nowhere close to rates that I was paying, back in the day.
Yeah, I know. That's always tough, right? Because when you start talking about, double digits and people are freaking out because they don't see a 2 or a 3 on the front of their interest rate anymore.
Right.
Nobody wants to talk about the fact that those were artificially, inflated. Those were propped up by,
that's correct,
by the government purchasing a terrific amount of bonds, mortgage-backed securities to do that.
Well, and and they forget that there was another period of time where there was also a 2 in front of a lot of those mortgages, but it was followed by another number before the decimal point. So
Absolutely.
I had construction loans out of 24.5%. So yeah, it was insane. So anyway, with this, we got an idea. I'm a data diver, so I'm constantly looking at the trends and things because I have to write. So began to get a sense that we were going to see buyers start to shift their mindset, because buyers still need to buy a house. Depending on where you look, the value, the net worth, I should say, of someone that owns a house, average nationally across the country between 30 to 40 times the net worth of individuals that rent. So, I mean, there's a lot of really smart people here in the Silicon Valley, and they get the fact that they need to have a house if they're going to start building that wealth. So there has to come a point where they wake up one morning and go, okay, I guess this is as good as it gets, so we better get in before a bunch of other people figure this out. And timing wise, we're pretty much right where I thought we were going to be about 2 weeks ago. And then we wrote an offer for one of our clients on a property yesterday, and there was over 30 offers on that property. So
yeah, the rates have stabilized now, right?
Yeah.
So like we were bouncing around. It was pretty volatile there for a while,
Yeah.
and we've been trading in a pretty narrow tranche for about maybe 3 weeks now.
Yes. Yeah.
And
So I think the 3 weeks is right on the money. And the reality still is there is not a lot of inventory out there, nor will there be for some time. So
yeah, let's talk about that. Like I'm looking at, we had really epic years in 20 and 21.
Mhm.
And our numbers all kind of dropped a bit in 2022. I believe that we will see a bit more inventory as we build into the spring, but you have a contrary view, and I'm curious, would you expand on that a bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to see more inventory than we see right now, no question, because we're just at the very beginning of what is the seasonal hot selling season, all the way up through the end of May, typically, which ironically is where we saw the brakes applied. Last year, we saw the brakes hit the beginning of May, and some people didn't quite figure it out through May. So the peak market last year was middle of June. So we're going to see more inventory coming. That's just a seasonally applicable data point, if you will. It happens every year. What we're not going to see is we're not going to see the volume of listings that we would have seen back in 2017, 18, and even 19. If you compare the stats from last year, 2022 to 2021, there was a dramatic drop off in available listings. And then you get all these sellers. Once the rates started to climb, we use the term golden handcuffs. You've got all these sellers who refied at 2 3/4, even 3%, who the thought of going out and buying another house or even refining.
I'm having that conversation with a couple borrowers right now who
Right.
they want to upgrade, but they're feeling a bit queasy about moving from a mortgage that's got a 2 in the front of it with
Right.
a decimal point right behind it to something that's got a 5 or a 6 in front of it.
Absolutely.
And like, what was my payment going to be, or what's my payment now versus what will it be? Oh my gosh, I don't know. Maybe I'll pump the brakes, but
Yep.
people will always here in the Bay Area, will always have a reason to be selling real estate and buying real estate,
Right.
moving up, moving out. We're a very transient population here in the Bay Area.
Mhm.
And so, there will always be real estate to be bought and sold.
Yes.
To your point, maybe a little less these days because of those conditions.
Yeah. To be honest, what we're seeing right now is we're not seeing a lot of young families sell their existing home and move. We're not even seeing a lot of what I would call middle age or even up into boomers doing that. What we are seeing is people who are retiring and moving out of the area, people who are retiring, moving into senior facilities. We're seeing a lot more trusts right now than we've seen for a long time, trusts and probates. And we typically do a lot of those anyway. We specialize in trusts and probate, but we're seeing more than normal. And I wouldn't say how do I put this? We're seeing more than normal simply because that's a higher percentage right now of the business we're doing, because the other business
Is
just
not
isn't
there.
there. It's
It's
not
not
there.
there. Yeah.
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 Yeah. So what that does is that we're actually currently dealing with a very high level of what we would call more difficult than normal type transactions, just
I
because.
agree. And I think that's the same
Yeah.
holds true on the lending side of the business.
Yeah.
We talked about it quite often. The days of the easy deal are gone.
Which,
they're
that's how we earn our income. People.
Yeah.
We're dealing with a situation right now that we've got a house in escrow, and everybody suddenly realized the property line's not where we thought it was. That's where we earn our paycheck.
Yeah, that's
That-
exactly right.
Yeah.
That separates the novice from the professional, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you look at the fact that the majority of agents in the market right now have not had their license more than 10 years. All they have seen is an upmarket. And so you've got a huge number that really don't know how to prospect, don't know how to go out and actually build a business the old-fashioned way.
Yeah,
And I really feel
let's talk about that, because I think that's really kind of the genesis of your article. Is the title is 10 tried and true closing techniques and how to seal the deal in 2023. And I want to get into some of those because I think they're important, but I also want to talk a little bit about, what are you seeing as being critical skills for an agent who, to your point, has been in the market 10 years, has had some success, has now, seen their business fall off because of the conditions that have been present over the last 18 months. What are the things that you believe those folks need to dig in on?
Well, what they need to go is go back to their entire book of business for the last however long they've been in business and build a database. I talked to a lot of agents as we were starting to head into the crisis. I started interviewing a lot of agents for another article I wrote for Inman to say, what are you seeing? What do you think you need to do? And then I asked a bunch of serious questions like, do you have a database? And a huge number said, well, no. The other group said, well, yeah, we've got names. So I said, how many? Well, 50. And then I said, so what are you doing with these? Well, not a lot. So, I mean, personally, you've got to have a minimum of 200 leads in your database. And you've got to have full contact information, name, address, phone number, email address. And you've got to stay in touch with those people a minimum of 36 times a year. So that would be the place to start. The second thing was, the was not a lot of income coming in. All those agents that were out there pumping out these marketing brochures and hitting neighborhoods really hard, the money's just not there to do that. So then how do you get leads? Well, you go bang on doors, you make phone calls, you cross-reference. I mean, worst case scenario, you tear a page out of the phone book, cross-reference it with the do not call directory and start calling. Agents don't know how to do that. They just don't know the fundamental prospecting skills that are required. And
so it's interesting because when you hear the stats, like that we've issued more real estate licenses in the last year than we have in probably several years. So when you cross correlate that with the fact that we're kind of in a down market, and the folks that have been here don't necessarily know or haven't experienced what it takes to be working hard in a market like this, how does that translate? What do you see happening? Do you think people that have been here for a while go away? Do you think that people that just showed up say, well, this is a lot harder than I thought it was?
This is kind of like a real job, you mean?
Right. Imagine that, right?
Yeah. So what we're seeing is stats from NAR suggest that we're going to lose 35%.
Okay.
So if this downward trend continues, it's a great time to be building a team, quite frankly, because as a team, we've got a lot of the support mechanisms and things, lead generation
and systems in
stuff,
place that work
there, that we know have worked historically over the years. But even then, our volume was down fairly dramatically the last half of last year over 2019. We
I
sold
like how you, by the way, I like how you used 2019 as your reference point, because we both know that 20 and 21 were anomalistic. The line that I've heard several times about it: don't confuse a tailwind with success.
Well, exactly. We sold 142 units in 2021.
Okay.
And you can get real cocky and you think, boy, we know it all, and that's the way to do it. And then like you said, there was a lot of tailwinds that year.
Yeah.
So
by the way, nothing wrong with that as long as you save for a rainy day, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which we did. Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned something that I think is really important, and we talked a bit about it in the session with the marketing group, but I want to touch on it a little bit further, and that is the CRM.
Hmm.
What CRM are you using, and how important? And I'm kind of leading, I know it is, but how important in your mind is it to building a business, a successful business?
Well, let's start with what's the best CRM. The best CRM, and the adage is, it's the one you use.
Yes, sir.
But I think the best in class really is Brivity. And I mean, we've looked at all of the, and when you get to a team, I mean, everything changes, because now you're looking for a large platform. As an example, we've got over 26,000 leads in our database, and we need a robust platform that can actually manage that, can have auto plans, can have auto CRMs auto evaluations going out that link directly to our website. We need to have a dialer that's in there so that we can identify all of those that are coming in with market alerts for a specific day, for a specific activity. Just highlight them all and have those calls dialed for us automatically.
So you have some sort of automation that's built into the tool, as well
there
as
has to be.
then you can go in and query it and update it as necessary as well.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, it's an absolutely amazing system. We looked at the other players. We looked at Boomtown as an example. That's another one for large teams. It's got the dialing systems and everything built in. And then you add on to that, this has marketing built into it as well. So, and we looked at Salesforce. We actually flung down about 10 grand with Salesforce to develop a real estate specific platform, and then realized that we were going to end up paying well over 100,000. And so I don't.
Listen, I work for the number two in the number two independent mortgage bank in the country, and we use Salesforce as our CRM.
Yeah,
and it's a beast.
Yes,
very powerful tool if you know how to wield it, but it will swallow you up if you don't.
Well, and the cost per seat is massive.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, and personally, Brivity's art and design is designed by Ben Kenny, and he knows what he's doing. He's running the largest team in North America. So he designed Brivity around what he needed to get his company to that place, and they're continuously upgrading updating daily.
So he's not only the developer, he's the user of the software as well.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, great. Which makes huge world of difference.
Yeah. And so you said that the best one is the one you use. Mm-hmm. I'm losing the second question that I'd asked you, but when you think about that solution in combination with other things that you do, what would be the next thing behind the CRM that would be a critical component of your business?
I would say the next thing would be training and accountability. For example, we've partnered with Place, and Place is if you see a race car go by, for example, it might be a Mercedes, a McLaren, Audi, whatever the car, whoever's made by, but on the side of that will be powered by Castrol, as an example. And so, you've got Keller Williams, which is who we are. We're the Medford real estate team inside the Keller Williams organization, but we're powered by Place. And what Place does for us is they run the back end of the business. They provide human resources. They provide all the things that realtors are typically really, really bad at.
Those are things like the office stuff. So like paying out commissions and dealing with all of the business sort of the day-to-day business function stuff?
Well, yeah, human resources, which would include hiring, firing. How do you make sure that when you fire somebody or let somebody go, you're following the California compliance? I mean, it is. You're talking lawsuits waiting for a place to happen there.
Yeah.
They run all the financials behind the business. Most agents I know don't have a clue how to read a P&L, let alone what one is. They don't know how to read a balance sheet. And so,
listen, I do a lot of self-employed folks. There have been more than one occasion where I've had to explain a P&L to someone.
right. And most agents, if they look at their bank account at the end of the year and hey, there's money, hey, we made money.
Hey, we made it, exactly. We're a success.
Yeah.
But in reality, like, that's only part of the equation. Yes, it's great that you have money in the bank at the end of the year, but like, was it effective? Was the money you spent effective? Did you actually?
Yes. Yeah, I have hilarious conversations with agents because all an agent has been trained to think about is their split. And that's all the broker's going to talk to them about. The broker's going to say, we're going to give you a 89, 80-20, a 90-10, you can get to 100%, whatever. And oh, by the way, we're going to give you, 1,000 postcards a month and, whatever. And none of them are talking about what really matters, which is the bottom line. After you pay for your advertising, your licensing, after you pay for staging, because that's pretty much mandatory here, you pay for the photography package, you pay for all of these things, your leads, and on and on and on. How much will you actually have bottom line in profit at the end of that? And agents don't have a clue. All they can think is, I got an 80% split.
So are you able, I'm curious, because it sounds like you are, I'm going to ask, are you able to determine what your margins are on a deal by deal basis?
On a deal by deal basis, on a month by month basis, we track this stuff religiously. Absolutely. We get a P&L at the end of every month. We sit down, we go through it, and we know exactly what our margins are, and we know where the money's going. We know what's working. We know what's not. One of the things that we had to do when we went into the market that really ramped up in June, I mean, the last half of last year, we had to know what we were spending and where that money was not being spent well. And so we went in and trimmed probably 70% from our operational budget. Just so
what were some of the target items? I'm curious. What were some of the things you drew back on?
Let's start with Zillow leads.
Okay, let's agree that that's a terrible waste of money.
Oh, completely. But if you've got the money, hang on just a second.
Sure,
Cheryl.
Yeah.
And by the way, we're right at the top of the hour. I'd love to go another 10 minutes. Do you have the time?
Yes, I do.
Good.
Yes,
good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So if you are doing everything else,
yeah.
So I draw a pyramid, and the idea is at the bottom of that pyramid is your database. Those are the people that they know you. And if you're staying in touch a minimum of 36 times a year, that's low-hanging fruit all day long, every day. And the cost for that is not that high. You start going up, and then you start talking about the next tier would be door knocking, or the next tier after that would be marketing mailers, and you start working your way up. And as you go, so for example, 50%, 50 to 60% every year in, year out, comes directly out of our database. That's
50 to 60% of your deals on an annual basis are either referrals or repeat business.
They're database. That's not talking about referrals.
Oh, so these are people you've worked with before.
Yeah, or people that they're in our database and their system. That would be we wouldn't call that a referral so much. Where we talk about referrals is coming in from other agents across the country. That's what we would classify as a referral.
Got it.
So 50 to 60% is just in contacts directly out of our database that are calling us up and saying, hey, so our number one priority is let's build our database. Yeah. That's why it's critical that new agents coming into our team have to have a minimum of 200 leads in their database.
And how are you instructing them? How are you instructing them to build that if they don't have it? I mean, you and I both know, like, we all have a sphere. Pick up your phone, look at the numbers in your phone, scroll through, figure out who's there. But like, if you've got someone struggling, how are you getting them to that number?
Well, you just said it. Go through their phone, put all their neighbors on it, and then walk up and down your block and say, hey, I'm in the real estate business. You know me, you see me, and I'm a nice guy, nice gal. Can I get your contact information? If I could provide you with some items of value on a consistent basis, is that something that would be of value to you? And, if they know you at all, they're going to say, sure, get your contact information, plug it in, off you go. Everybody on Facebook, all your friends. My gosh, I know people that have 600, 700, 800, 900 friends.
Yep.
Easy.
LinkedIn, the same thing. LinkedIn,
Pinterest,
the same thing.
yeah,
Yep.
you name it.
Yep.
So
absolutely.
Once we help them kind of get their mind around that, then it's a matter of developing scripts for them to go back to those individuals and say, hey, I see you on my Facebook page all the time. Don't have your email address, or your phone number. I'd like to provide you with items of value. Can I get that information?
All right. Here's a question that will probably cause some controversy. I don't know. Listings or purchases.
Well, it depends on the market.
Okay.
When we were back in 2005, 6, 7, 8, 9, we couldn't get a listing to save our lives. We didn't have an REO contract. So we dialed in on buyers and did everything we could. And we doubled our business with buyers. So
it's situational. It's very situational.
Absolutely situational. And the adage, list to last. That's true. And so the long play is to develop a system where you're going to go out and get those listings on a consistent basis, because once you've got the listing, then that drives you to buyers. That drives you to other listings. And we tell our agents, when we put a listing on the market, we're not putting it on to sell, we're putting it on to get another listing. And there's a dramatic fundamental difference. If we do our job right, we know it's going to sell. Okay. In the last 6 months, it might take a little bit longer, but if we're doing our job, every listing we had, we sold. Okay. So if we know that up front, then what we need to be focusing on is how to leverage that listing to get more listings. And so all that we do in a listing, the way we take pictures, the way we stage the home and all of that, it's not for the buyer, it's for another potential seller.
It's for the next listing.
That's absolutely right.
So it's a great segue into really what the meat of the article is, and that's closing.
Yep.
And I asked you in our email exchange, what's your favorite approach? You've been at this for a long time. What's the thing that's best for you?
I like the assumptive close. And so, when we're listing presentation, we'll just start sticking the words in there, and when we work together and, we make the assumption that they're going to say yes to us. So I'll say things like, this is the price that if you were to put your house on the market today, this would be the price that I think you would want to list at. But we all know that that's today, and this price is totally meaningless, in 3 months or whenever you put your market on. So when we put your home on the market, the day before it goes live, we're going to run these numbers again.
Here's what we're going to do when we get there.
Yeah. Exactly. That's an assumptive close. And that's the easiest one there. And it just flows. What you're trying to do is develop a relationship, and that just flows right out of the relationship.
Yeah. Speak to, the article digs in on this a bit towards the end of it. And for those of you listening, I'm going to link to the article because it's a good one. You list several, maybe as many as 10, or maybe 12, and variations thereof. At the end, you say, what's the most important thing? Practice.
Yes. So I was able to give you a script for, an assumptive close, and, I'm just having a conversation with you and it rolls, right?
Yep. It doesn't sound stuffy. It doesn't sound canned. It doesn't feel like I'm being sold.
Nope. It's just, and that's from practice.
Yeah,
absolutely. And if you provide the link, keep in mind that Inman's by subscription, so they might not be able to get it. However, if they need to be an agent to get the article this way, but if they go to our collaborative in Facebook page, which is Bay Area Realtors Connect.
And I'll put a link to that as well in there.
Perfect, because that article is posted.
Perfect.
There.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. We'll make sure we get that link included as well. We've been talking a lot about realtors, and whether you've been in the business a long time or not, things that you want to do as an agent in this particular market. We keep using and hearing the word shift, as this market has changed. But there's another part of the equation, and that's the buyers and the sellers. So what are the things that we should be talking to them about, as it relates to this changing market, this changing environment?
Right. For sellers, we talk to them about the idea that, listen, prices are a little lower right now. So if you're going to sell your home, and prices are a lot lower in other parts of the country than they are right here. So if they're looking to relocate, they're going to be far ahead to do it now rather than waiting till when prices begin to go back up, because property taxes in those areas where the ongoing taxes are predicated upon, like Prop 13 here in California, for example, is predicated on the purchase price. Those taxes are only going to go up. So if they're concerned, and we tell them, listen, the amount of money that you can save today if you bought will more than offset the additional money you're going to pay in a higher payment because of a higher interest rate. But oh, by the way, in a lot of these other areas where you're going to be going, the market's not as hot as it is right here, and you're going to have more leverage to be able to ask the seller there to buy down the rate and other things like that. So there's plenty of options. So those are the conversations we have with sellers. And then for the buyer, it's, listen, every single market out there turns and goes back up, and everybody's trying to time this market. If you're trying to time the market, guess what? You already missed it. You already miss it. And people that we were talking to 3 months ago, you buy now because your point's going to be high, and the classic marry the house, date the rate. Okay, trite little saying, but I mean that's true. Well,
look at, like on that very point. So what I tell my borrowers is, here in the San Francisco Bay Area, we have a reason to refinance every 5 to 7 years. You could argue it's a little longer these days because we're a little more planted. It may be even longer because rates have been so advantageous, less incentive. But we have a reason to restructure a loan every 5 to 7 years, and those reasons vary. So you're moving out, you're moving up. You want to buy a second home. You got into trouble and need to restructure, or consolidate some debt. You want to do a new kitchen or a bathroom.
Right.
You want a lower term, or rates come back down again, and it actually makes sense for you to refinance. There's lots of reasons to restructure a loan. And, this idea of, yes, the rates are higher than they were 18 months ago, but it's not forever.
Yeah.
Getting in is the more valuable thing. Getting in and getting started, making payments to yourself, getting on the appreciation train, having the opportunity for the tax write-off, even if it is diminished as a result of the Jobs and Tax Act, are great things. They derive a lot of value for us.
Yes. We ask a buyer a simple question. Look, I'm sure you're thrilled about paying to grow somebody else's wealth when you're renting their property.
That is a really great way to put that. It's really it's such an important point.
Yes, absolutely. So at what point is the pain of you making somebody else wealthy going to overcome your resistance with this rate? At what point do you want to begin to get the tax benefits that go with home ownership, the appreciation that's going to come? And yes, prices are falling. They were a few months ago anyway. Prices are falling.
Or at least they're not accelerating at the way that they were.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So the question is, all your buddies are saying, wait till the bottom of the market, it's going to get cheaper. That's not the right question to be asking. The question to ask is, can you afford to pay it now? Because if you can, there are homes on the market that you're going to be able to get into with no competition now, where there used to be massive competition.
And by the way, that wasn't that long ago.
Yes, that's true. And the people that we were telling that to, we're calling up and going, dude, 54 offers. you better get back out there.
You got to do something. You got, and again, so your 54 offer scenario, your 30 offer, anecdote, those do have to do with less inventory in the market, but they also have to do with people are waking up.
Absolutely. And they're waking up right when I predicted they would. So it's kind of a nice thing, pat myself on the back. Hey, I actually said something smart,
Well, you touched on it early in the conversation, and that is you're a data guy. I'm a data guy too. I think if we're not selling with data, we're not doing our job.
Yeah.
And when you look at the data and you study it on a regular basis and you pay attention to the trends, it becomes really easy to see the stuff coming.
It does. A really funny thing happened here just earlier this week. It's also on Inman. Goldman Sachs came out with some pretty dire predictions, late last year.
The economic hurricane?
Yeah, it was pretty grim. They just came back here last week and said, wait a minute, we might have been wrong.
Yeah.
That's a pretty major player in the data analysis environment.
Indeed, if anybody has their finger on the pulse, it's going to be those guys that basically drive capital markets, right?
That's correct. And so earlier this week, they said, wait a minute, our previous predictions might not be accurate. Well, and good for them. But
I'd love to come back and revisit the prediction conversation as we get towards the end of the selling season.
Right.
We do have a bifurcated selling season here. We have a run up until the end of the school year. Then everybody takes a little break for holiday time and vacation time. And then they come back in the late summer, early fall for another round of action before the Christmas season.
Yep.
So it'd be interesting to hear your thoughts on, how did the season go and how are we looking for the next season?
Right.
Yeah.
Love to.
Good. Listen, I'm really grateful. I'm super thankful for the opportunity to have talked with you. Always appreciate learning from you. Guy who's been around a long time in this business and has learned a thing or two about a thing or two.
So thank you. Good to be here.
Awesome. I'm going to end that recording if I can find the controls for it.